Thank you very much for having me here, saying a few words about Danny. That's really a great pleasure. But you can understand that's a very difficult task also. It's not like giving a science talk. So what I did in preparing that, I contacted a few of our colleagues throughout the world, which I knew that Danny had been interacting with, and the resonance was with all people the same. Everybody insisting on how open-hearted, how warm-hearted, how friendly, how funny a colleague Danny was, and I appreciate the most I appreciated a lot what John Bollinger from NIST wrote. He said, "The practice of physics is an international endeavor, and it's colleagues like Danny that makes it all worthwhile." And I thought that was a really nice sentence to describe how Danny interacted with many people and what his personality was. So I appreciated that. And I want to share some photos and facts that we had along the last, 7 or 8 years, because the advantage of conferences and organizing conferences, you have a lot of photos, which you don't have in the lab. Every day when you go to the lab, you don't make photos all the time. But if you go to conferences, you do that. So I walk you through some of the conference souvenirs, and they trace back a part of the INTRAPIS activities in the last some years. Starting maybe in 2008, but there has been activity before. Christoph Wunderlich has reminded me that there has been a project which was called Q-Gate or something like that in 2002, 2003, and that Danny was the coordinator, and he put a lot of effort in, and even they were shortlisted for a prize and things like that. So there was. The INTRAPIS are a small community, and in principle, people know each other, but they met each other in the conferences, and there was like things that, like, the INTRAPIS were part of the cold atom community in a large sense, so people met at the conference, everybody knew everybody still, but we started to be more dedicated on INTRAPing events in 2008. And in 2008, this is the first dedicated workshop on INTRAPs in Les Houches. Don't look for Danny on that photo. He's not, because he came by train and he only came later. But he was there, and that was a very important event. You see all these smiling people, and you might recognize some of these there in the audience also. And in fact, it doesn't really respond to, not to that and not to that, so you really have to, okay, see, this is a conference. This is a conference of physicists. People talk. They do have glasses in their hands to discuss, and you see people you know. This is Stefan Schiller. There's Richard on there also. That was a conference when we started to talk about, more. It was dedicated only to ion trapping. And then you see these three nice people there. It was a very nice evening, and we discussed about going on organizing conference. And then, even though Winnie still pretends that he was drugged that night, because otherwise he would not have been accepted to organize a conference, these three people took over the organization of the next conference, and you see they look all very happy. This is what we call then the traditional organizer picture that we now pursue at every ECTI conference, and the photos are getting larger. Each time we add a new organizer team to our photos. So these three guys, they accepted to organize the next meeting, and you will still see that, well, the rest of the evening, then Chris Monroe trained us how to open the beer bottle with a beer bottle. So finally, that's the experimental physics part, okay? But then in Les Houches, it's very nice. You have a very nice view on the Mont Blanc Massif, and you see that people look like the day after that historical night when Richard, Danny, and Winnie took over the organization of the next conference. People look at this panorama, but other people were discussing, and you see that these two guys, they're really already discussing things, so maybe they started to organize, they started to discuss about the organization. Look to the other side, very nice panorama, but still these two guys, they couldn't. I think that then that was the day after they realized really what they had taken over, and then the three of them started out on their organization, and that was when the ECTI was born. I mean, now it's called, so the conference is now called the European Conference on Trapped Ions, and it started in that place. And here you see the organizing team plus a member, but you see the organizers of that. And there is also a very nice photo which has been made by one of our colleagues who has made this projection. And you see there's a nice photo of that conference. And Laurent reminded me, Laurent is the colleague, my French colleague, who has taken many of these photos, and he reminded me, he said, my souvenir, one of my best souvenirs of Danny is the hike he has organized at that first ECTI conference. And you see there was a hike which was organized as a very nice, romantic, going to a waterfall, and see it's going in the landscape, and people were happy going through the meadows and things like that, and were hiking. And then things turned a little weird there. There was really, things was sort of a funny hike, and then afterwards it started to rain, and it will spare you the unfriendly pictures of colleagues soaked to the bone, so I don't show these to you. But there was a nice conference dinner. We were back in time. There was a nice, that was maybe not the conference, but the great hall dinner, where you see Dave Wineland, Richard, Danny, and people have these funny things around their head, because around their, in front of them, because that was a dinner where we had to eat with our hands. And you see there, they drink more than they eat. Here they go. So there are some very nice pictures of that conference. And then the traditional organizer dinner, where this is the great table, and then giving over the organization to our colleague Rainer here, going to Obergurgel. And effectively, that's where we went then a year later. And you see, this is one of the pictures you might have seen a fragment of. That was, I think that's one of the rare pictures we have from Obergurgel. We don't have a lot of them. That was the next ECTI then, from 2010 when it was in Redworth Hall to 2012 when it was in Austria. And then in 2013, on the initiative of our colleague Niels Madsen, we went to Les Houches, to a school. Again, to Les Houches, that's the place we like to go there. And there is something where, some of us went there as trainers, but that was when the trainers also took lessons, and in particular Danny, who was not a professional of skiing, but he came skiing with us. This is Michael Drifton, this is myself, and there was lots of nice snow. And so you see Danny here in a more unusual outfit. On that skiing day. It was really nice weather. You see that? And if you go in January to a physics school in Les Houches, it can be very nice. This is, by the way, Laurent, who is taking many of those photos. And these two iron trappers, you might know, our Danish colleagues, Thomas Pedersen and Michael Drifton. So this is this ECTI conference again 2 years later. Then we went to Mainz, and you see that for a change, Danny is not looking very happily there. And that was the conference where he came and said, I have such a headache, and I really don't feel well. And it's really not it's not a good souvenir from all of us, but this is, as you see, again, one of those traditional organizer photos. I like to finish with this photo. This is the one I like the most, because you have seen this. Richard had put it up before. but it's just a fragment. It's just a fragment of this one. And this shows Danny surrounded by his Iron Chapter colleagues in a very nice conference. And it's also, I think, this photo and this scene we would like to remember, seeing Danny as a central part in our community. He had, well, last year or in 2014, we had decided that he would take over or be the chair together with Matthias Keller. They decided to take over the organization of the next Stein Trappers network, of going on, giving service to the community. And it was such a, I would say, it was such a, such a decision which was so normal and so appreciated by everybody that we didn't even discuss long about that. I mean, Danny would have been a perfect person to take that over, continuing to play a central role in our scientific community. Somebody who's was so open and so discussing things with everybody, and it would have been a perfect match for him, or it would have been a perfect task to give more service to the community, and would have been a perfect plus, an added value to the community. So I think that we should keep in mind this smiling and very central picture of Danny with his Iron Trappers colleagues. Thank you for your attention.